Welcome to Transfer Talk. As you've never seen it before, it's back and we're in person. And who better to relaunch the Strand on Football Daily, this cult favourite Strand, than Joe Tomlinson himself. How are you, Joseph?
I am. I'm looking tanned. No, not really. I'm not really. I'm just come back from holiday. This is the first shoot I've done in 2 weeks, so the board's out. I'm looking forward to it. Do you want to explain it?
Yeah, great to have you back, fresh, with a fresh concept to launch. Yeah, so what we wanted to do on Transfer Talk now is we wanted to try and debunk some of the gossip that we see coming out, because there's a lot of nonsense.
So much nonsense
out there. And so, as you say, we've got our rumour mill right here. Clickbait, nailed on, love it, hate it. And what we're going to do is take a piece of gossip and place it where we think it sits within the rumour mill. So, let's kick off with our first example, Sofyan Amrabat. And this is being... What did that sound like? Let's kick off with Sofyan Amrabat. Joe, you're excited by this one. It's been reported that he's going to Manchester United. Gazzetta in Italy. And then we've also got the Moroccan journalist, Isam Anas. He's even come out and said that he's basically agreed a deal, 25 million euros plus bonuses, multi-year contracts. Apparently he rejected Liverpool in order to move to Old Trafford.
That's what I like to hear, mate. That's what I like to hear, rejecting Liverpool for United.
Yeah, straight up with love it, isn't it? Where are you going?
I do love it, but I haven't seen an actual reliable journalist report on this. I've seen lots of interest, Fabrizio Romano, etc., talking about interest, but lots of it kind of predicated on the fact that we're going to have to sell midfielders. Fred and Scott McTominay potentially leaving the club, Donny van de Beek too. So at the moment, I love it, but I think it's probably somewhere around this sort of middle zone. I don't think it's a nailed-on transfer yet. I think there's... Mate, do you know what? I'm going to move it a little bit. I'm going to put it on the other side, because there is at least concrete rumours of us being interested, and I do love this transfer. I think it's pretty much the perfect player for Manchester United's system right now. I think they need a player who can play in that deep-lying role, control the game. He's a fantastic passer of the ball, fantastic long-range passer, super combative as well, as we saw at the World Cup. You know, that tackle back on Kylian Mbappe, you think back to that. I think alongside Casemiro in the big games, it works, but also Casemiro can't play every single game, so sometimes he can fill in for Casemiro. I think the balance works in midfield. I love this move.
I agree with you. This guy's been talked about leaving Fiorentina for a really long time. They've also brought in Artemello. I know he's not had a great few years.
What a signing that is, man. What a signing that is,
he just needs that little something just to get himself going again. I would personally move it over a little bit further. I just feel like with McTominay being linked, we'll talk about that a bit later, with the fact you need to get some bodies through the door, he's a different player to Mount. As you said, he's obviously coming into the midfield. I think he offers a lot of qualities. And with Casemiro not getting any younger, I can see this happening. And at that price point, whoa, that's pretty good news, I would say. So, I like this one. I actually think this is a sensible transfer at a sensible price, which you don't see all too often, I would say. All right, should we crack on with the next one?
It's good news as well. He's training by himself at the moment.
Training by himself.
He's not training a part of the team, so that's positive.
His agent has been badgering for a move for so long. I'm not surprised Fiorentina are getting fed up with him. All right, next one, bit more suspect, I'd say, is Emi Martinez.
I mean, how far onto the clickbait scale can we put this one?
Just to say, this is coming from Gaston Edul. This is an Argentinian journalist, and that's that Inter Milan have offered 15 million euros for Martinez, 30 years old, Golden Glove at the World Cup last year. Pretty prolific goalkeeper in the Premier League at this point.
This is laughable, mate. This is absolutely laughable. A linchpin of an Aston Villa side, one of the best goalkeepers in the league, a World Cup winner, 15 million euros. I don't know what Gaston's smoking, but I want some of it. It's absolutely outrageous. He's got a profile picture of him and Lionel Messi, him interviewing Messi, so as if that gives him some sort of pedigree. I'm off the scale clickbait here. Do you know what?
Do you not like the transfer though? Because he has been saying that he wants to play high-level football. I think, at this point in his career, he probably deserves that after everything that he's achieved over the last couple of years. Obviously, Aston Villa are a team going places, but for 15 million, I mean, Inter Milan, I know they're looking for a cheap alternative to Onana, but that's definitely not happening.
The only thing I would say about it is he's a very different profile of goalkeeper to Andre Onana. You know, he's much more of the sort of come out, claim every single cross. I think he profiles extremely highly, top 1% of crosses claimed. He's very, very commanding of his area, but he's not so good with the ball at his feet, is he? So he's not an exact replica of an Andre Onana, and they are in talks to sign Jan Sommer as well, who is clearly their number one choice. I just do not see this happening in a million years. I think for Aston Villa to sell him, he's under a long contract. It would take 60 odd million euros, I think, let alone 15.
That's the thing. The Jan Sommer deal is a lot easier to pull off if we think about kind of how maybe disappointing he was last year in that time filling in for Manuel Neuer. And on that subject, we might as well stick with the goalkeeper because David Raya, he could have a big part to play in all of this. This is the rumours that Bayern Munich are looking to go in for him right now. Fabrizio Romano said that Bayern are exploring a deal. Brentford still want £40 million, which
Fair play to him, man.
Why? What are you on about? 1 year left on this deal. They're putting off everyone.
But we're talking about 1 year left on his deal. You know, we've seen players with 1 year left on their deal this summer move for considerable amounts. Mason Mount's gone for £55 million. 27-year-old goalkeeper that's extremely high level in the Premier League. I think there's every right Brentford have to demand close to £40 million.
40 million?
I don't see what the problem is there. You don't think he's a £40 million goalkeeper?
I think they're going to be stuck with him until January. They're going to get a lot less money. They've already signed a replacement who's playing week in, week out. What is it, Mark Flecken? Yeah. So I do think that this is a problem, and I think they are going to have to go down that fee at the moment.
They're going to have to sell him eventually, aren't they, this summer? Because they can't afford to lose him for free. He's obviously had a bit of a fallout behind the scenes because he's come out very publicly and said he wants to leave the club. I think for Bayern, it's actually a pretty good move, this. Like, given Manuel Neuer's horrendous injury problems, you know, when that skiing accident happened, there was talk Manuel Neuer might have to have his leg amputated.
Yeah.
And he has obviously had another setback. The comeback's been delayed. I think this would be a really good option. I think he's a really good goalkeeper. I don't think it's very nailed on. I think it's probably closer to this side.
Yeah.
But I would probably put him about there. I think I kind of enjoyed his move. I would like to see David Raya at Bayern.
I agree with you. We were touting him for Inter Milan as like a kind of dream replacement in goal there. But yeah, I just think that £40 million fee is going to have to come down. Bayern Munich aren't a team that necessarily overpay. We've seen like them being cautious in the Harry Kane pursuit at the moment. So yeah, I think this is something that will rumble on until the end of the window, whether or not David Raya stays or whether he goes at this point. But as you said, like his save rate in the Premier League has been supreme the last couple of seasons. He has elevated himself into that kind of top category. So yeah,
Spanish international as well now.
Would be great to get through the door there. Sticking with Bayern Munich, another person they're pursuing. This has been going on for a while now. Kyle Walker. So where's he going? Where are you sticking this? Do you like this?
This is probably close to Sofyan Amrabat, to be honest with you. Do I like this? £13 million for one of the world's best right backs.
He's 33 years old.
I don't
Not
care.
from a 3 years. He's be 36 by the time.
That's
technically.
fine.
No, Plettenberg. This comes in from Sky Plettenberg. He's going to be quite old by the time that this potential deal.
We've seen him even at 33 being able to use his physicality, his pace. In 1v1 situations, there's still not a better right back in world football, in my opinion. I think he is perfect for a Thomas Tuchel system as well, because he can also play as a wing back if needed, if they were to shift to a back three. At £13 million, it's an absolute no-brainer. I think there is a little bit of an issue about his contract length, though, because obviously Bayern Munich classically don't offer 3-year contracts to people that are above 30 years old, and I think that might cause a bit of discourse within the squad. But I love this move, and this feels more likely than Sofyan Amrabat for me. So I'm going to put Carl right up there. I think, given the fact that he has, according to reports anyway, and reliable reports in Germany and England, told the club that he quite wants to join Bayern Munich, and he could be used as a little bit of a pulley for Harry Kane. You know, Carl Walker's already there. Does that encourage Harry Kane to go a little bit more? I think this is a great move for Bayern Munich.
I'd move it there, maybe just.
You love it less than Sofyan?
I don't know. I don't like it as much as I like the Sofyan Amrabat deal because I think there's more legs in the Sofyan Amrabat deal. I think this is more of like this is kind of a short-term fix to that right-back solution.
You happy with that?
Pavard will probably play at centre-half next year or can play at right-back. He's a completely different choice to him out there. I don't think he's going to get all the minutes in the world that he's perhaps expecting. I prefer that, if that's okay.
Okay, mate.
Kyle Walker going in there. So yeah, by the way, guys, if you disagree with wherever we've placed any of these, do let us know in the comments down below. So far we get to dislike anything, but maybe times will change with our next suggestion, which is Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher to West Ham United. Now, we have a West Ham fan behind the camera, and I said that I wasn't too sure about this because there are rumours that McTominay is another player that they're potentially going for, Scott McTominay. Either way, West Ham are getting fleeced for that £110 million that they got in for the deal.
Are they getting fleeced?
I don't know.
You don't think Conor Gallagher's a £40 million player?
He definitely was at the end of his Crystal Palace spell, but I just think there's been a lot of question marks. I think when you get called like a very honest player all the time, he's a hard-working guy. He actually, I think within that Chelsea system last year when it was going wrong, I think he at least his work rate maintained at a high level. He didn't drop off. unlike some of the other players there. But it is tricky. So Fabrizio Romano reporting that Chelsea have rejected a £40 million bid with add-ons. I only hate it.
So on the clickbait scale, it's moving up towards this sort of end. It's Sofyan. It's probably higher than Sofyan because Fabrizio's reporting it. Sofyan, we've just got a load of jokers in Italy reporting it, and we've got him quite high.
Yeah.
But I kind of agree. I would potentially have this as the first of the lower half. Not hate it. I don't totally hate it because I think Connor is a good player. I just don't fully understand the fit at West Ham. Look, they're trying to reinvest this Declan Rice money, aren't they, in a midfielder or multiple midfielders, very clearly. But for me, I think Conor Gallagher wants to play in slightly similar areas to Lucas Paqueta. I think Paqueta does a lot of his better work going forward, as does Conor Gallagher. I think we saw the best of Conor Gallagher at Crystal Palace almost as a 10, or at least a very advanced 8. Last season, I think it was only 4 goal involvements for Chelsea, but he did put up a significant amount of minutes. I don't particularly like it from West Ham's perspective. I'm also questioning it from Chelsea's perspective, I'm not going to lie.
Hate this from Chelsea's perspective.
They've got no midfielders. They've let Kante go. They've let Loftus-Cheek go. They've let Mount go. They've let Kovacic go. At the moment, the average age of the midfield is about 21. And it has, I think, Premier League caps under 50. Because you've got Enzo Fernandez, then you've got Carney Chukwuemeka, you've got Andre Santos, you've got Casadei potentially, and you've got, if you sell Connor, you're down to 4 midfielders, none of which are established first-team names with Premier League experience, none of which are really an out-and-out defensive midfielder, not that Connor is, but to play alongside Enzo to free him up. I think it would be bizarre for Chelsea to let him go, but if 50 million comes onto the table, my opinion might start to change. 50
million, I do think you jump at that. But once again, you're losing another player like Mount who actually gets the Chelsea club. And there's so much turnover in that squad. I think it'd be much more sensible to hold on to him for another year. I know a lot of people actually say he's quite a misunderstood player and actually his qualities are perhaps lost within, surrounded by other players. I mean, he was brilliant at Crystal Palace, we can't forget. I'd like to see it happen just because I want to see him get more minutes in a team where perhaps he'll be more appreciated.
He was good at Palace the first half of the season, though, as well. I think that's forgotten about a little bit, is the second half of the season at Palace, the drop-off was quite significant. I think of the 8 goals he scored at Crystal Palace, 6 of them came before Christmas. So there was a significant drop-off second half of the season. And we haven't seen the same output, despite the fact his underlying numbers are still pretty solid at Chelsea.
Yeah, they are.
Like last season. I think a more interesting name is Scott McTominay for West Ham. If we had the magnet of Scott McTominay here, you'd be putting it up towards Love It. I think I would probably have it more around this sort of area. Like, I think it would be a better profile of midfield fit because he can at least play deep. He can offer as an auxiliary centre-back, as we've seen with Scotland, but he can also carry the ball very effectively.
Brilliant for Scotland.
Like we've seen Declan Rice do at times. He's obviously not the calibre of Declan Rice, and he is older than Conor Gallagher, 3 years older. But I think if you're going to sign a player to profile in that area, I think McTominay profile is better.
Absolutely.
And you might be able to get him for £35 million. I know United are saying we want 40 million. I think if a £35 million offer came in for McTominay, given that Amrabat's on the table for 25, I think it's much more likely to be accepted.
As a United fan, obviously McTominay came through in that Jose Mourinho era. Yeah. He's had moments where he's looked absolutely class, hasn't he? I mean, I think all the managers seem to really enjoy working with him. Would you be sad to see someone like McTominay leave, potentially, considering sort of how long he's been at the club?
Not necessarily because of how long he's been at the club, but I think he does offer something to Manchester United in that sort of battling spirit, which people often laugh at and things like that. But when United were at their worst, you could at least rely on Scott McTominay to give his all for the club, which you couldn't say about an awful lot of Manchester United players. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that Erik ten Hag kind of wants to keep him around, because there's not a desperation to sell Scott McTominay. Clearly, Ten Hag is moving towards a more aggressive, combative style of player. Sofyan Amrabat, Sandro Martinez, Casemiro, and I do think Scott McTominay also fits into those virtues. Last season he suffered a little bit from injury, so I personally would rather sell Fred than McTominay, but if McTominay, if 40 million comes onto the table for McTominay, I think United probably do have to sell him, given the other areas that need to be addressed in that squad up front and with a player like Amrabat.
Yeah, and Fred, if you're listening, come to Fulham. Absolutely want to see you there.
So Besiktas. Come to Fulham.
Please do. All right, yeah, I agree with you about McTominay. Would be a big loss for United. Right, one more player for you today, and that's the news that Mohamed Kudus is being linked with Arsenal at the moment. Now, this is an interesting one because Jacob Benz via...
Jacobs.
Yep. Now this is an interesting one because Ben Jacobs via Court Offside is suggesting that actually Chelsea are favourites for Kudus. We've got Arsenal because we put this down first. Chelsea linked with Elise as well, who's in sort of a tuggle between Manchester City.
Tuggle?
A tuggle.
A tuggle.
Is that a word? Tug of war?
Tug of war, I think he was going for.
A little tuggle between City and Chelsea for Elise. So Kudus appears to be sort of a plan B for Arsenal in this situation. Really exciting guy at Ajax. We saw in the World Cup too what a player he is. 11 goals, 3 assists last season, and not many starts either for Ajax. I think it feels like his time is almost up at that club. And a bit of a transition this summer, certainly. Arsenal, though, already stacked. Got Bukayo Saka, who plays on that right-hand side. I don't really like this because I want to see Kudus playing more football.
You want to put it down here?
I don't think this is going to happen, really. I think they've got more important.
I don't think they necessarily do at this stage, Arsenal. I think the next signing Arsenal make is probably going to be somebody as a supporting act for Bukayo Saka. I think they've got the midfield business done in Kai Havertz and Declan Rice. You know, they've got the full-back they wanted in Jurriën Timber. I think the next bit of business they do is probably a supporting act for Bukayo Saka. Do I think that's going to be Kudus? I'm not massively convinced. I think if they were really interested in Kudus, we'd have seen more news coming out when they were in talks with Ajax for Jurriën Timber. Maybe a two-man switch there. I think Kudus is probably quite low on the agenda and they might well need to sell to buy at this stage, Arsenal. I think for Chelsea, you could put it anywhere up here because it's just they're just signing nonsense at the moment. Like, not that Mohamed Kudus is nonsense because he's obviously a very, very talented player, but they are linked with absolutely everybody that's not a central midfielder. Although Kudus, at times this season at Ajax, he's played in midfield, he's played off the right, he's even played as a number 9. I don't hate it. I would probably even put this somewhere along here, maybe even up here. I think it's unlikely at Arsenal. I don't see it happening at Arsenal this summer unless there's another sale.
Do you think Kudus?
If Pepe goes, Kudus is coming in.
I know, obviously, joining Arsenal is an exciting time to get part of that project.
Yeah.
Do you really think that Kudus is going to go and be such an obvious supporting act to Bukayo Saka? Surely at this point he could go to a big club in Europe and be one of the main guys. I don't understand why he'd want to be clearly behind one of the most exciting right wingers in world football.
Well, for me, because Kudus can offer things in a variety of roles. Yes, we can call him the backup to Bukayo Saka potentially, but the output we saw from him through the middle was very effective. You know, could he compete with Kai Havertz for a left-sided attacking midfield berth?
So many players.
They do have an awful lot of players, and what that would mean for the future of a player like Emile Smith-Rowe, I'm not too sure. He also kind of wants to float across that line. He's such a good player. If Arsenal could get that business done, then it has to be in the Lovett side. But it doesn't feel that realistic for me, given how advanced Chelsea seem to be.
I'm just going to move this. Just going to move this one just down here a little bit. I think.
Not having that.
Not having that.
Why do you? From the player's perspective, I kind of get it. But from Arsenal's perspective, you can't hate that move. It'd be a very, very exciting transfer to get Kudus through the door alongside Havertz, Rice and Timber, wouldn't it?
Push it back out then. Push it back out.
Arsenal fans, let him have it, man, because I just don't see how you can hate that move. I think it's unlikely. I think Chelsea's the more likely destination.
Just quickly before we wrap up, are you completely happy with the board as we see it? We've got Emi Martinez, clickbait, but we quite like the idea of him going to Inter. Kudus, we're not too sure. More on the clickbait spectrum. David Raya, we like this one. Will it happen at this price point? Not too sure. Then we get into the ones we think are more nailed on.
I'm going to move David Raya a bit. I'm going to move David Raya slightly up to this side, I think. I can see with the Neuer injury and a very reliable source in Fabrizio that progressing and that price point maybe dropping a little bit over the next month, especially to a club abroad. David Raya will obviously push so hard for a move to Bayern Munich that might end up happening. So I'll move that one a little bit. But there's some good moves this week.
All right, that's Transfer Talk. The new improved in real life Transfer Talks. What do you guys think of this format? Let us know down below. We're always open to suggestions. Subscribe to Football Daily if you haven't already. Give this video a like, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.